утро после всего. Трагедия вновь повторяется в виде трагедии. Но к больницам русские люди приходят сдавать кровь. Русские люди с усталыми, хмурыми лицами.
Люди приехали раньше, чем открыли двери.
Просто утром встал и поехал.
Долг любого гражданина помочь нашим людям, которые сейчас ранены, которым необходима кровь.
ρίξουν άλλα πράγματα για άλλες συγκοινωνίες, για άλλα μέσα και οτιδήποτε.
Η ώρα περνάει. Η λίστα των αγνοουμένων συνεχώς αυξάνεται, προσθέτοντας νέες σελίδες θυμάτων στην ιστορία των τεμπών. Αυτής της κοιλάδας, με την άγρια ομορφιά που μου προκαλούσε δέος από τότε που ήμουν παιδί. Πάντα έστρεφα το βλέμμα μου ψηλά, ψάχνοντας ασυνείδητα μια αρχαία θεότητα από αυτές που μας μάθαιναν οι δάσκαλοι στο σχολείο. Κάνω πάλι το ίδιο, σαν να με καλεί ένα αρχαίγονο ένστικτο να αναζητήσω κάτι που κρύβεται καλά ανά τους αιώνες μέσα στα σύννεφα που χαϊδεύουν την κορυφή του Ολύμπου. Κάτι που σίγουρα δεν μπορώ να δω, αλλά η ενέργειά του με στοιχιώνει και με κάνει να ανατριχιάζω. Ξαφνικά κάνω τον συνειρμό. Είναι το σημείο που ο μύθος συναντάει την πραγματικότητα. Το αίμα μου παγώνει. Τρέμω στη σκέψη πως αυτή εδώ η κοιλάδα θρέφεται από τη νιώτη. 3 συγκλονιστικά δυστυχήματα σε τούτα τα χώματα έντυσαν στα μαύρα τη χώρα μας, βάφοντας με αίμα τις σελίδες της νεότερης ιστορίας. Θα μπορούσε να πει κανείς πως πρόκειται για τραγικές συμπτώσεις ή για ένα μακάβριο παιχνίδι της μοίρας που οι κάτοικοι αυτού εδώ του τόπου φοβόντουσαν από τότε που οι θεοί τους κατοικούσαν στον Όλυμπο. Κατά τη μυθολογία, κάθε 9 χρόνια οι Θεσσαλοί κάνανε στην περιοχή τα σεπτήρια, τελετές εξαγνισμών για να ξορκίσουν την αρνητικότητα του μέρους. Σύμφωνα με τον μύθο, ο Απόλλωνας, ο οποίος ήταν ο κατεξοχήν θεός της νεότητας, σκότωσε τον Πίθωνα, ένα φοβερό τέρας. Ο Απόλλωνας πάλεψε μαζί του, το καταδίωξε ανεβαίνοντας ως την κοιλάδα των τεμπών και εκεί το σκότωσε. Τότε πίστευαν πως ο Πίθωνας εκδικούνταν τη νεότητα. Κάθε εποχή έχει τους δικούς της Πίθωνες. Στην τραγωδία του σιδηροδρομικού δυστυχήματος των τεμπών που έστειλε στο σκοτάδι του Άδη 57 ψυχές, στην πλειοψηφία τους νέες, οι συγγενείς των θυμάτων παλεύουν σαν άλλοι Απόλλωνες να σκοτώσουν το τέρας που θρέφεται στην αγκαλιά ενός κράτους που το προστατεύει και το ταΐζει με αδιαφορία, διαφθορά, αναλγησία, ατιμωρησία για να μην παρασύρει και άλλους στο χάος του.
Είναι αυτή η μάχη. Είναι ένας πόλεμος.
Είναι πολύ χτυπημένοι.
Τα περισσότερα παιδιά πάντως τα οποία έχουν έρθει εδώ πέρα είναι νεαρής ηλικίας, έτσι.
Ναι, στα πρώτα βαγόνια ήταν όλα τα παιδιά. Γι' αυτό έχει πολλά παιδιά χτυπημένα.
Οι σοβαρότεροι τραυματισμοί πιστεύω ότι είναι στα πρώτα βαγόνια. Και είναι όλα νέα παιδιά, όλα νέα παιδιά.
A concert group called Picnic. It's a youth concert. There's 6,000 sold out seats. Her friends were there, so she can't get a hold of them. I have acquaintance of friends whose kids are there, or hopefully they're still alive. And this is a strike against the Russian people. They targeted a youth concert to kill children.
Oh, Alexandra Levine.
What is that? What does it say?
It says Stand with Israel.
Did you make it?
No. So these were actually sent to me from Jerusalem.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's sent to you by whom?
So I have some very good friends that are non-Jewish. They were very upset with what happened on October 7th, and I called them and we cried together, and they felt really bad. So they went on a website that makes all of their stuff in Israel, in Jerusalem, and they bought me these bracelets. They bought me this necklace that I'm wearing right after October 7th, and because they know that what happened in Israel was tragic, and they feel for my people, and they feel for me, and they're Goyim, but they love Jews, they love Israel. They're Goyim, but they love Jews, they love Israel. They're Goyim, but they love Jews.
Εξαιρετικές ποικιλίες, πλούσιο άρωμα και γεμάτη γεύση, σε συμβατές κάψουλες αλουμινίου εσπρέσο που παράγεται στην Ελλάδα. Di Mello, in the name of coffee.
Well, we're now crossing live to Kazakhstan, where the Russian Soyuz MS-25 manned spacecraft is about to be launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome to the International Space Station. We're showing you live pics right now from the Kazakhstan Cosmodrome. So this is the first Soyuz vehicle heading to the International Space Station and the fourth human spaceflight this year. Riding in the spacecraft, or at least preparing to lift off, is mission commander, Russian cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky, and with plenty of flight experience for him. This is his fourth flight into space, further adding to his 530 days in space altogether. The second crew member is Marina Vasilyevskaya, a representative from Belarus, and she was selected in 2022 to participate in today's event. Lucky her. Before working as a flight attendant of a national airline, so she's also had plenty of time in the sky herself. She'll be the first woman from Belarus in space. That's quite a badge of honor. Just to remind you, these are live pictures from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. as the Soyuz rocket prepares to take off. As soon as the trio reaches the destination, the total number of people in orbit will amount to 13. Russian cosmonaut and Belarusian flight participant will spend 12 days in orbit carrying out scientific work, while the NASA astronaut is scheduled to stay for 6 months, eventually getting back home in September. Just to remind you that back in July 2022, Roscosmos and NASA signed an agreement on cross flights of Russian cosmonauts and American astronauts on American and Russian spacecrafts, respectively. So it's good to know that America and Russia can work together in some spheres. Let's take a moment now and keep an eye on these live pictures as we prepare for the launch. Any moment now, we're going to see this rocket, the Russian Soyuz MS-25, reach for the skies.
And we now have a partial eclipse in the United States of America. I can see it. It's going in and out of the clouds, but there are times when it does pop up and I can see that partial. Look how dark it got, right there. Did you see that darkness? It just got really dark. We are close. Oh my gosh, we got it! We got it! Ah! Oh my gosh, Lauren, look up! Woo! Oh my gosh, it's just so amazing. That was incredible.
And we're into the first part of totality here.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, there we have it. Glasses off. Holy moly.
There it is.
That is so
We have Venus down to the lower right, and we have a nice large and sort of spiky corona, the rare sun's atmosphere that we never see, the very high temperature particles. So this is a really great view of totality.
Wow. I think we're counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, we got it! Oh my gosh, it's amazing! Guys, it's amazing. I just can't even describe to you how amazing it is. Oh, you can see the corona right now. So right now we're looking at the sun's outer atmosphere, and our 4 minutes and 11 seconds of totality is beginning.
The crowd is building. Here we go. Here we go. Yes! Totality! Oh, look at that! That is so awesome! Look at that! The corona is so vivid. Venus is perfect. Oh my gosh, it's all there. And the crowd goes wild! Yes! We did it! We did it! And our celebratory egg cream cheers totality.
We're in it! Oh baby, we are in it right now.
Can we take off?
Look at that! Oh!
Holy cow!
Wow! Wow! Wow, we dropped 6 degrees since before we started going into about halfway through partial. I am blown away.
Oh, and there's the
6,
diamond ring on the
5,
other side.
4, 3, 2. Oh, there you go, Diamond. Woo! Boom! Wow!
Oh! Oh, wow! Wow! Holy smokes! That is spectacular! Wow, the diamond ring. You see that? Holy smokes. Mars! I think that's a planet 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 diamond ring! Wow! Look at that! Okay, take your glasses off. Look at that! Wow! That's the sun and the moon right there. Oh, this is even cooler than last time. Look at that. Look how dark it is. Okay, we see stars. What do you think? Whoa! Last people!
Hi, my name is Mackenzie. I am in 3rd grade. My question is, what is the difference between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse?
Thank you for that question, Mackenzie. Okay, let's talk about the difference between the eclipses. Now, the solar eclipse that we had today
Is when the moon crosses between the Earth and the Sun. But we also get lunar eclipses, and the lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth crosses between the moon and the Sun. So it's really about where the shadow is going. Today we have the moon shadow.
Just in from the Daily Mail. CERN to test world's most powerful particle accelerator during April's solar eclipse to search for invisible matter that secretly powers our universe. CERN, hi, how's it going? Let me save you a lot of time. We actually have the answer right here. Colossians 1:16, for by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. The answer is Jesus.
Luke chapter 11, verse 29 and 30. And while the crowds were thickly gathered together, he began to say, this is an evil generation. It seeks a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah the prophet. For as Jonah became a sign to the Ninevites, so also the Son of Man will be to this generation.
China's crackdown on the booming house church movement continued this fall, with government officials raiding worship services and even telling Christians they could no longer read the Bible. By law, churches in China must register with the government and join either the Three Self-Patriotic Movement or the Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association. But because such churches face severe restrictions, millions of Christians have joined illegal unregistered house churches. In October, a house church in the Jiangnan Shandong province was ambushed by a group of local officials, according to the watchdog Bitter Winter. Quote, "From now on, you're not allowed to meet here, nor are you allowed to read the Bible," they went on to say. Now, according to the orders from the central government, the Bible is banned. You're designated as a target of the campaign to clean up gang crime and eliminate evil. House churches all over Shandong province are being shut down, the church members were told. What kind of government is this? An elderly Christian asked Bitterwinter. They turned a blind eye on evildoers and criminals, but persecute Christians. Now, having no other choice, the churchgoers signed a document that prohibits them from holding religious gatherings, Bitterwinter reported. The evil, sick government officials took the church's valuables and told church members they would be arrested if they continued gathering. Further, they raided the houses of at least 8 church members, confiscating religious books and tearing down religious paintings, Bitterwinter went on to say. In September, government officials raided another church meeting in Yan'an and confiscated 100 religious books published in other countries because owning them was not in accordance with the Chinese laws. Some of the people went on and said that the government persecutes us because it fears that the church's growing membership and rapid development would be unfavorable to them, a member of a Yunnan house church said. These officials are acting like devils or demons. Whatever the case may be, the persecution of Christians is rapidly growing throughout the world. What do you think? Is this prophecy being fulfilled that the book of Revelations talked about? Leave your comments below this video. Thanks for watching. The Chinese Communist Party instructed the Bible and other religious texts to be rewritten in an expressly pro-communist perspective that conforms with the party's goal. In November, a group of 16 different experts and religious representatives were called to attend a meeting of the Chinese Committee for Ethnic and Religious Affairs of the National Committee of Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. Those religious leaders were then instructed to review their religious texts and interpreted and reinterpreted them to conform with the values of the country's Communist Party doctrine. Wang Yang, chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, reportedly told the gathered religious leaders they must interpret their religious views in their text to meet the instructions of Communist Party Chairman, the President of China, and fulfill the requirements of the era. Those selected religious officials reportedly agreed with the instructions of the Chinese ruling Communist Party and agreed to undertake the effort to review and amend or retranslate their various religious texts. The religious leaders reportedly said their efforts would help prevent extreme thoughts and ideals from undermining China. So in other words, China is more important than God Almighty or what Jesus Christ did for us on the cross. News of the new religious requirements follows reports of other Chinese efforts to crack down on various faith groups in recent years. including the detainment of nearly 2 million minority Christians or Muslims held in concentration camps in the Xinjiang region. China has denied the existence of the camps and reportedly described facilities as boarding schools to provide job training and discourage radicalization. Right. China has also arrested various religious leaders like Pastor Wang Yi and have instated bans preventing other religious leaders from attending religious conferences abroad in other parts of the world. In a recent move, China officials in the eastern province of Xinjiang ordered a Catholic church to remove painting of the Virgin Mary and her baby Jesus Christ and replaced it with an image of the president of China, Xi. They were also told to hang Chinese flags and pro-communist party slogans throughout the church. All of the things that I just told you in this news story originating from China is fulfilling Bible prophecy, end-time Bible prophecy. Now we know prophecy is being carried out here in the United States, whether you want to believe that or not, with Donald Trump. So with all the moves to resist God or Jesus in China, what do you think is going to happen to China in these last days? Leave your comments below this video. Thanks for watching.
I'm Manila Chan. You are tuned into Modus Operandi. Every year, thousands of Christians in Africa are slaughtered, numbers unknown to much of the West due to a lack of media coverage. Today, we'll look into where this onslaught is most prevalent and why it's happening seemingly unnoticed by the collective West, who purport to be concerned about human rights abuses. All right, let's get into the MO. It may come as a shock to you to hear this, but Christianity and all its various sects, Catholicism, Baptists, Orthodox, and so on, Christians are the most persecuted religious group in the world. That, according to Washington, D.C. think tank, the Cato Institute, citing the study conducted by Open Doors USA, which estimates that over 350 million Christians around the world faced some level of what they called significant persecution, some resulting in death in the tens of thousands. Among those 2023 deaths, a whole village of Christians in the central Nigerian state of Plateau who had their whole town razed by alleged Muslim extremists. Hundreds massacred on Christmas Eve, churches burnt to the ground, homes sacked, children slaughtered in the arms of their mothers. And to this day, nobody has been brought to justice.
Nigeria maybe now is the most dangerous country for Christians in the world.
Nigeria,
known as the Giant of Africa, is the continent's biggest economy and largest democracy, with a population projected to become the world's third largest by 2050. It's also the world's largest mixed Muslim-Christian nation.
In Nigeria, we have, as a population, 210 million people. And I want to be precise, almost the 50% are Christians. And so Christians are Nigeria. Christians aren't guests.
A vibrant Nigeria could serve as a growth engine for the whole continent. A failed one would be a source of instability and violence. Nigeria has been in the news lately because of the recent elections. The country is at an inflection point, with over 60% of the population living in poverty, while security crises, including kidnapping and terrorism, have multiplied.
I'm here in Nigeria, one of the places that's most difficult, most dangerous to be a follower of Jesus. Every year, thousands of people are killed for their faith. This is a camp of people who are remainders, people who've been orphaned, people who've lost their fathers, their husbands. House Resolution 82 can make a difference. The U.S. government needs to make Nigeria a country of particular concern. It has been in the past, it should be now. There are thousands of Christians who are going to be killed this year. We need to make a stand.
Joining us to discuss this disturbing trend of violence against Christians is Jason Jones. Jason is the president of the Vulnerable People Project. He's a film producer, author, and human rights worker. His new book, The Great Campaign Against the Great Reset, drops April 16th. Jason, thanks for making time to talk with us. So first up, Jason, on the matter of the Christmas massacres in Nigeria, 195 Christians were slaughtered in the Plateau State in central Nigeria on Christmas Eve of 2023 by what they allege are Fulani militants. But the European Parliament is attributing this to climate change and avoiding using terms like genocide that, might incite too many feelings. Why is the international community afraid to touch on the subject of religious persecution?
Yeah, well, the international community is really good at condemning genocides that happened a generation ago. But tragically, they're very consistent in falling down in the face of genocides today. Obviously, in Nigeria, there's been a complete abandonment of the Christians in Nigeria. We saw the same thing in Iraq and Syria as the ancient Christian communities, the Assyrians and the Chaldeans, were being wiped from the face of the earth by ISIS, while the Yazidi were suffering ethnic cleansing and genocide at the hands of ISIS. We just saw the Armenians completely cleansed from Artsakh, and there was not a blip on the world. And there's utter silence from the world community. Nothing changes. So this is something that's consistent. And so at the Vulnerable People Project, I actually founded this organization over 20 years ago because it was obvious that nation states only use human rights violations and religious persecution to further the ends of those states. And there has never been an authentic commitment to advocating for vulnerable ethnic and religious communities as an end in themselves. And so that's something we seek to do at the Vulnerable People Project. And I have to say, we consistently fail. We failed to wake the world up to what was happening in Artsakh to the Armenian Christians. We failed for 12 years banging drums, trying to wake the world up to what was coming for the Christians and Yazidis in Iraq. And we failed there. And again, in Nigeria, tragically, 9 out of 10 Christians in the world this year who are murdered will be murdered in Nigeria. And it is very difficult to get the world to pay attention.
Now, across Africa, there is a rise in sectarian violence directed mostly at Christians. If we stick with Nigeria as an example, since 2009, according to the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law group, they estimate that some 40,000 Nigerians have been killed because of their faith. These whole villages have been razed, churches, schools burnt to the ground, yet there's no media outcry. And seldom are the perpetrators ever brought to justice. Why the media silence?
Yeah, again, this is a consistent pattern that we've seen. Right now, there are hundreds of thousands of people displaced in Sudan by the war there. Nothing. Again, with the ethnic cleansing in Artsakh, nothing. So what we're seeing in Nigeria is it's just consistent. And the mainstream media fails to address human rights issues. I call it the captive media, unless it in some way benefits powerful interest groups. And so that's one of the challenges that VPP is trying to convince powerful interest groups that advocating for vulnerable ethnic and religious communities is in their interest. When you look at the Christians in Nigeria, you have the largest quote unquote democracy in Africa. It will be the third largest country in the world by 2050. It's evenly divided by Christians and Muslims. And it's also Muslims and animists and others that suffer at the hands of these Islamist extremists, not just Christians. But, you know, the future of Nigeria is the future of Africa. And anyone who wants a peaceful, prosperous Africa should be fighting for a peaceful, prosperous Nigeria. But tragically, the plight of the Christians in Nigeria gets lost in these very busy media cycles that seem to be driven by powerful interests.
And it's not just in Nigeria or the continent of Africa either. According to the Cato Institute, in a 2022 paper that was citing Open Doors USA, Christianity is actually the world's most persecuted religion, despite media hype surrounding various other faiths. They reported roughly 6,000 Christians were murdered that year. Another 6,000 were imprisoned, and then some 4,000 more kidnapped. They say 5,000 churches were destroyed. These are global numbers. What do you think is driving this rise in attacks on Christians worldwide?
Well, you know, is it a rise in attacks on Christians worldwide, or is this just the 2,000-year history of the church? Something that's unique about Christianity is that the Christian is compelled to stand with the outsider. The Christian is compelled to stand for justice. The Christian religion says that really, if we have an other, we're called to love the other or to immolate ourselves in the service of those who are being scapegoated or suffering abuse. So wherever there are Christians, whenever there's political unrest, wherever there is religious persecution or ethnic persecution, the Christian will be compelled to stand with them. And the great Catholic, the French Catholic anthropologist René Girard said, to stand with the scapegoat is to become indistinguishable to the mob from the scapegoat you're standing with. So Christians over for 2,000 years have suffered persecution. So it's staggering. The numbers are staggering as we see sort of world order beginning to disintegrate. Christians will be compelled to stand with those who are suffering and abused. And when you stand with those who are suffering and abused, you yourself will face abuse.
So as you say, you know, these aren't new events or incidents that are new to the Christian community. Very good point. All right. Coming up next, we'll examine Christianity in America over the controversy of abortion rights. Where does the law contravene religion? We'll discuss it when we return with Jason Jones. Sit tight. The MO will be right back.
Every spring and summer, the melting Arctic snow reveals abandoned machinery, millions of rusty barrels, and the detritus left by human expansion into this most inaccessible of territories.
Я, конечно, был в шоке. Как можно было так засраться по самые помидоры? Это просто печальное зрелище.
Volunteers from Clean Arctic travel to Heiss Island, home to the biggest polar station on the Franz Josef Land archipelago.
Серо, грязь непролазная. Боже мой, я тут еще целый месяц.
У меня были первые мысли. Нас обманули, нам подсунули какой-то самый стрёмный остров во всем архипелаге.
Это одна из самых северных земель на нашей планете, от которой до Северного полюса примерно 1000 километров.
The Arctic pioneers' main objective was to explore and conquer these harsh lands. They had no time to think about waste management. Now their legacy could remain for centuries.
Как мы, наверное, человечество в целом выглядим, наверное, нелицеприятно. Такое чувство, что мы заставим эту планетку, а потом полетим куда-то делать это еще.
Чистый север, чистая Арктика!
Welcome back to the MO. I'm Manila Chan. Jason Jones is back to continue the conversation. Thanks for sticking with us, Jason. So let me ask you, which groups of Christians do you think are the most persecuted? Is it the Catholics? Is it Protestants, Orthodox? Who?
Yeah, I think, well, the Catholic Church, again, is the largest church. And the Orthodox churches, because they were churches in the Islamic world, they weren't evangelizing. They weren't spreading around the globe the way the Western church was. And so the Western church, specifically Catholicism, you will find Catholic orders and Catholic lay apostolates like mine. We're a Catholic apostolate wherever there's persecution in the world. So I think you'll find the Catholic Church produces the most martyrs, because we're the largest church and because we're the church that is sent the missionaries to the furthest reaches of the world. You think of the great martyrs of the 20th century. You have St. Maximilian Kolbe, was a Polish priest who had the largest newspaper in the world at the time of the German invasion of Poland. It was an anti-Nazi newspaper. He died in a starvation bunker. You think of the great Polish saint, again, Jerzy Popieski, a Jesuit priest who was the spiritual founder of the Solidarity movement, who was beat to death by the KGB and thrown into an icy river. So, the Catholic Church is the church that probably produces the most martyrs. And when you see martyrs in Nigeria and other places, most likely they're going to be Catholic.
What about in the so-called secular West? Do you think the growth of atheism and secularism is posing a threat to the actual freedom of worship in this so-called free societies? And could we see perhaps worse discrimination in the future? I mean, for example, we have recently seen that the FBI was investigating, undercover, mind you, a Catholic group in Richmond, Virginia, labeling them far-right extremists.
Yeah, and it's to be expected. I always, as a Catholic, I'm grateful when I hear these stories because that means Catholics are doing their job. So, it's not really that they're leftists even so much as that they're progressive. I say that the West has become post-liberal, that no longer believes in freedom of speech or expression or religion. It's really the left in the West is driven by an obsessive desire for progress, and progress at the expense of human dignity, progress at the expense of the vulnerable. So, for example, you have poor Catholic children in the Congo digging for cobalt for lithium batteries. So this drive for progress at the cost of human dignity will inevitably lead to Christian persecution, because as a Christian, I am compelled to stand with the Uyghur. As a Christian, I am compelled to stand with the Catholic children, the Christian children, the Muslim children, the animist children in Congo, who are working in the worst slave labor-like conditions in and around a toxic waste, a toxic cobalt. So we're compelled to stand with them. As you get in the way of this relentless drive for progress, one can expect persecution.
Yeah, expand on religious attacks in the U.S. for us. As we saw, Roe overturned by SCOTUS, many on the religious side were celebrating this on the grounds of their religious values. I mean, primarily Christians. Shortly thereafter, we saw some churches torched, a lot of intolerant language towards entire communities of faith. Where do we draw the line here in the U.S. between religious expression and the letter of the law?
Well, there was a recent book that came out called Legacy of Life, honoring the 50 heroes most responsible for the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And I was honored in that book as one of the 50 people most responsible for the overturning of Roe versus Wade in the United States. And I was grateful for that honor. Don't know if I earned it, but the overturning of Roe versus Wade was essential for the salvation of this republic. Because like slavery and segregation before it, abortion denied the only principle of unity that the United States has. So we're not united by ethnicity. We're not united by history. We're not united by religion. We're united around this declaration principle, this belief that is really fundamentally the Christian vision of the human person. We're united by this belief that every human being is endowed by God with inalienable rights, inviolable dignity. Everyone understands that the biological beginning of the human person is fertilization, and that abortion destroys the human person. And so what Roe versus Wade really did is it undermined this republic. And so the overturning of Roe versus Wade really, although in the short run, it created some division, a lot less division than I had expected, it really turned out to be kind of a nothing burger, despite the Democrat Party's obsession with the issue of abortion. And they're just driving away younger voters and minority voters with that. And I hope they continue doing that. But really, the overturning of Roe versus Wade was essential for the salvation of our republic in the same way that the Civil Rights Act was, in the same way that the tragedy of the Civil War ending slavery in the long run was necessary for this republic, for the health of our republic.
And while we're on the subject of the U.S. and society's view on religion, can we, for a moment, just examine this new paradoxical shift here? Because for the last 2 generations, it seemed Americans were abandoning religion altogether. But some recent new polling seems to indicate the youngest of Gen Z and the new Gen Alpha are taking a noticeable swing in the other direction, showing that faith is actually on the rise among the youngest of the Americans. How do we square that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the most conservative. It's the most conservative generation in America since the 20s, which I think is something that's quite interesting. And you see this longing for religion. So in the United States, we see this nihilistic, a post-liberal left, and on the right we see sort of this cargo. I call it the cargo cult, the Gnostic cargo cult, which you see in Eastern Europe and Russia with guys like dilettantes like Alexander Dugin, who try to cobble together like the remnants of what was left of Russian culture in the wake of, 70 years of totalitarianism that sort of decimated civil society. You're seeing that now in the West, where they sort of try to cobble together and build together some sort of traditions, this aping for tradition. And so I think the real challenge for the church in the West is to not allow young people to be seduced by ideologies or enthusiasms or Gnosticism or this great awakening that you see on the right, but rather to attract them to Trinitarian, traditional, Orthodox Christianity. And I think what we're seeing with Gen Z and Gen Alpha is they're looking to it all. They're looking to it all as they look at the Great Reset, as they look at globalism, as they look at how pornography and app dating has obliterated their ability to experience eros and the awakening of romantic love in a natural human way. They know they've been robbed. They're going to be a very angry generation. And so they're looking for answers. And they know that neoliberalism or the post-liberal nihilistic left has nothing to offer them but lies. So they're looking everywhere, willy-nilly. So I think it's the responsibility of the church to really clearly present Orthodox Christianity, apostolic, historic Christianity, the Christianity that I believe as a Christian, of course, is not only true, but knit together everything true, beautiful, and good in the civilization that we have. And so, yeah, I think it's just inevitable that we're going to see a swing to the right. We don't want it to be an illiberal, nihilistic right. We want it to be a wholesome, Christian, humane conservatism.
All right, I got to leave it right there. Jason Jones, president of the Vulnerable People Project, author of the new book, The Great Campaign Against the Great Reset. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for sharing your time for this important topic.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Modus Operandi, the show that digs deep into foreign policy and current affairs. I'm your host, Manila Chan. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next time to figure out the MO.
Κρίμα, πολύ κρίμα.
Ξέρεις τι κόπο έκανε για να γίνουν όλα αυτά τα πράγματα και λεπτά. Τη νύχτα, το πρωί μέχρι το βράδυ. Τέλος πάντων, θα κάνουμε και καλύτερα.
Αυτά θα ξαναγίνουν, μπράβο.
Καταστροφή δυστυχώς. Σαν να είναι όνειρο, σαν να είναι ψέμα. Δηλαδή είναι ένα πράγμα φοβερό. Έχω κάνει εδώ πέρα 1000 γάμους. Κύριε λες.
Όχι την άφησα να ξεφύγει τόσο πολύ ποτέ. 100 χιλιόμετρα.
Εμάς στην Παλαγία δεν ήρθε ούτε ένα ελικόπτερο, ούτε πυροσβεστικό, ούτε αεροπλάνο. Μόνοι μας με το χέρι μας στις σημαίνες έχουν κινητό, έχουμε το σπίτι μας για κεφυλάξω. Και ας είναι καλά να κάνει αυτό το κομμάτι που έρχονται και δεν μας βοηθήσει. Κανένας.
Ναι.
Κανένας. Απλώς ήρθαν 2-3 πυροπολικά και λέει φύγετε. Πού να φύγουμε, να πάμε πού.
Αυτό το φύγε.
Τον είδες στο Instagram που το κάψετε τα χέρια κάτω.
Όχι.
Να το κάψετε το χέρια. Αν δεν το κάνω μουσουλμάνι, το κάνω χριστιανοί. Εδώ πες. Εδώ πες. Αυτό να βγάλετε, να ανεβάσετε στα Facebook. Αυτό το πράγμα, εδώ και. Ποιο μπορεί να κάνει χριστιανός αυτό το πράγμα. Κάτω σε παρακαλώ.
Έλα ρε Δημήτρη να δεις.
Μπορεί να το κάνει αυτό ο χριστιανός αυτό το πράγμα.
Όχι βέβαια. Έλα να δεις Παναγιώτη. Κοίτα τι κάνανε. Πήγαινε να δεις.
Ποιος το έκανε.
Χριστιανός μπορεί να το κάνει αυτό να είναι μουσουλμάνο.
Δεν χρειάζεται να είναι μουσουλμάνο.
Χριστιανός το πότε να είναι.
Εγώ είμαι πεπισμένος και μιλάω πολύ ψυχρά και ορθολογικά ότι ο στόχος είναι η Ορθοδοξία. Ούτε ο Καθολικισμός, ούτε ο Προτεσταντισμός.
Μα έτσι είναι. Μα έτσι είναι.
Και ειδικά αυτή την περίοδο που το Άγιο Πάσχα εμείς εορτάζουμε την πεμπτουσία της πίστης μας. Δεν δαιμονίζονται βλέποντας τον εσταυρωμένο. Δαιμονίζονται βλέποντας αυτό που πρεσβεύει ο εσταυρωμένος. Σε μία πολυπολιτισμική κοινωνία όπου το οικονομικό επιβάλλεται επί του ηθικού, είναι λογικό η Ορθοδοξία και η εικόνα του εσταυρωμένου να τους ανατριχιάζει. Διότι, πολύ ορθολογικά, τι συμβολίζει ο εσταυρωμένος? Τον ορισμό της θυσίας, του μαρτυρίου και της θυσίας, όχι για να οικονομήσω, όχι για να εξυπηρετήσω. Ο Ιησούς θα μπορούσε 50 φορές να έχει γλιτώσει και να έχει γίνει και πανίσχυρος. Προτίμησε να θυσιαστεί για τις ιδέες του.
Προτίμησε να θυσιαστεί για τις ιδέες του.
Τι διδάσκει λοιπόν τον πολιτικό ο Ιησούς? Θες να είσαι ο πρώτος πολιτικός? Να θυσιαστείς για το λαό σου. Θες να είσαι ο πρώτος πατέρας? Να θυσιαστείς για την οικογένειά σου. Θες να είσαι ο πρώτος δάσκαλος? Να θυσιαστείς για τους μαθητές σου. Και πού καταλήγει αυτό, σεβασμιότατε? Σε ένα πολύ συγκεκριμένο σημείο. Όταν βλέπεις μία πατρίδα να πτωχεύει ο λαός, να πτωχεύει το έθνος, την ίδια στιγμή που ο ηγέτης της πλουτίζει και αυγατίζει την προσωπική του περιουσία, είναι δυνατό να ανέχεται τον εσταυρωμένο? Για εμένα, απολύτως ορθολογικά, αυτή είναι η εξήγηση.
something about this picture. This seems anything but an accident.
I cannot tell you how many times my dad would call me over and ask me to help him with the system because it's not running right, and I'm finding like 4 different registries.
お感じになられましたか、兄様。この冷圧は。
Socialist country.
You can call till your voice is running out, but I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. I'm somewhere far away.
注がれた力の大きさに耐えうる器が砕ける茶碗だ。
Yeah, run it back, tell him what I'm coming at. I was on that bullshit then, now I'm done with that. Scared of what I didn't want, scared of what I wanted and thought that I was finished, but I hardly had begun. In fact, I'm a beast, I'm a monster, a savage, and any other metaphor the culture can imagine. And I got a caption for anybody asking. That is, I am feeling fucking fantastic. Some days it doesn't take much to bring me down. Some days I'm struggling for control. Some days it doesn't take much to bring me down, but right now I'm floating above it all. So you can call till your voice is running out, but I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. I'm somewhere far away where you can't bring me down, so I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. Yeah, come again, feel it when it's flooding in. Woke up knowing I don't have to be numb again. Starting line scratched out, I don't have to run again. Give a fuck's maxed out, tell them I'm not coming in. I'm not present on the payroll, and you can tell me I should do it cause you say so, but I'm not dancing to the rhythm you replay, no, cause I'm already 500,000 miles away though, they know. Some days it doesn't take much to bring me down. Some days I'm struggling now. So you can call till your voice is running out, but I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. I'm somewhere far away where you can't bring me down. So I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now.
What are you waiting for? You're faster than this. Don't think you are. Know you are.
Let it begin. Push it away, but it's pulling me in. Trying to pretend I'm not aware when I do it again. I know the signs. I see the pattern in front of my eyes. Something inside me opening wide, stretching and coming alive.
I can't stop it when it starts. Trying not to fall apart. Building up until it all goes dark. In my head, I can feel it getting closer. In my head, breathing heavy on my shoulder. And I'm trying to fake it, but there's no way to escape it. In my head, buried underneath the noises. In my head, there's a million little voices saying you'll never make it, and there's no way to escape it. In my head,
Coming around, thoughts are intruding, I'm pushing them down. Stopping it now, blocking out, in fact I'm blacking it out. Holding too tight, kidding myself, turning wrong into right. Thief in the night, I've been the one putting gas in the lights.
I can't stop it when it starts. Trying not to fall apart. Building up until it all goes dark. In my head, I can feel it getting closer. In my head, breathing heavy on my shoulder. And I'm trying to fake it, but there's no way to escape it. 'Cause I'm swirling in the panic of a shaken confidence.
σε ένα βλέμμα σιωπηλό στον κόσμο τον αμαρτωλό και δε σιγεί πως καίει. Και με το χέρι στην καρδιά αν δεν σ' αγγίξει πυρκαγιά ψάξε να βρεις ποιος φταίει. Σαν χαμοπούλι ταπεινό που δεν εγνώρισε ουρανό και περπατά στο χώμα. Την 11η εντολή δεν τη σεβάστηκες πολύ, γι' αυτό πονάς ακόμα. Την 11η εντολή δεν τη σεβάστηκες πολύ, γι' αυτό πονάς ακόμα. Είναι καινούρια και παλιά σαν της ψυχής την αντιλιά, σαν της καρδίας τα βάθη. Μα μες του κόσμου τη φωτιά που μπερδευτήκαν τα χαρτιά κανείς δεν θα τη μάθει. Τράβα να βρεις το Μωυσή και ξαναρώτα τον κι εσύ μήπως αυτός την ξέρει. Την 11η εντολή που είναι ολοκάθαρο γυαλί και κοφτερό μαχαίρι. Την 11η εντολή που είναι ολοκάθαρο γυαλί και κοφτερό
Lots of pictures of himself.
μαχαίρι.
Not what I would do, but
Στην παγωμένη σου ερημιά το γέλιο γίνεται ζημιά κι η ομορφιά σκοτάδι. Έτσι είναι φίλε μου η ζωή, παίρνει τον ήλιο το πρωί, την καταχνιά το βράδυ. Κάνε λοιπόν υπομονή τώρα που φως δεν θα φανεί κι ούτε θα φύγει καράβι. Την 11η εντολή τη ζουν μόνο οι τρελοί κι όλοι της γης οι σκλάβοι. Την 11η εντολή τη ζουν μόνο οι τρελοί κι όλοι της γης οι σκλάβοι.
I'll always love you, Diana, no matter where I am.
Some breaking news for you as we just discovered the Russian Soyuz MS-25 manned spacecraft launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome to the International Space Station has been cancelled. It plans to be the first Soyuz vehicle heading to the ISS and the fourth human spaceflight of the year. And on board the spacecraft is mission commander Russian cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky. He has years of flight experience, but this would have been his fourth trip into space, and he spent an impressive 530 days.
何が来やがった。あれ、落ちたみたく見えたか。落ちたな。嘘。
ちょっと勢いつきすぎてたな。
いつの間に。
Remember this week we reported how the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, had completely done an about-face and broken his promise to not pass aid to Israel and Taiwan and Ukraine until we committed to spending money here, especially at the border? Well, we were left with the question of why he would do that. Why did he change his mind? How did he do this about face? We reasoned, after I did a little digging, that it could be the $9 million that he's gotten in campaign donations that I found in one of the websites that I always check to see which politicians get how much money from whom, right? Now, and that certainly could be, that certainly could have something to do with it. Money always does. But wait, there's more. This is another reason that he may have done it, the one I'm about to share with you. And it comes from Johnson himself, the third most powerful man in the U.S. and one of the most powerful men in the world right now, just said that he made his decision to send America's tax dollars overseas, especially to Israel. Why? Because the Bible told him so.
Israel is a critical ally of ours, and I think most people understand the necessity of this funding. They're fighting for their very existence. They're the only stable democracy in the Middle East. I mean, of course, for those of us who are believers, it's a biblical admonition to stand with Israel. We will, and they will prevail as long as they're with them. And this is an important, very important symbolic gesture and a very important replenishment of their stockpiles, for example, of the Iron Dome. The reason they shot down all those drones and missiles in the last attack by Iran is because we assisted with that. I think the American people understand the importance of that.
Did you catch that? For those of us who are believers, it's a biblical admonition. What? Did he really just say that? Foreign policy is based on religious belief. Isn't that what we accuse the Taliban and some of these other extreme organizations of? Aren't we different in this country? I'm a Christian. I believe in whatever it is that, I am taught as a Christian. But wait a minute. When I take a job to represent all of the people, it's not about my religion. And by the way, does the Bible even really say that? What he's talking about? Where? How? I mean, as both a Christian and a journalist, I immediately started wondering, what's he talking about? I wanted to know where this thinking comes from. So we did a little checking, and here's what we have found. Mike Johnson, for those of you who don't understand where he's coming from on this, is among a group of evangelicals in the United States who believe in something called dispensationalism. Big word, right? Dispensationalism. For some reason, these folks who are dispensationalists don't think the very same way about Jesus' teachings as do most of the world's Christians. Interestingly enough. Why? Well, while most Christians see all people who believe in Jesus as the people of God, the dispensationalist thinking is that it includes the Israelites and the Hebrews, which were the people of God before Jesus is coming. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into Sunday school. I'm just trying to explain the differences in thinking here. So bear with me if you could. So where does that thinking, that historic inclusion or dispensation thinking come from? Well, 200 years ago, when Zionism began to grow in Europe, many Zionists began funding and pushing a new movement in Christianity. Think about that. Zionists pushing a movement in Christianity that promoted two dispensations, one for the Christian people and one for the elder chosen people of God, the Jews. Fast forward to today, and you have a majority of evangelicals in the United States now believing that God has, in fact, two covenants, one with Christians and one with Jews. Most Christians around the world see this as a kind of like an upending of historic Christian teachings, right? Because things changed after Jesus was, after Jesus is coming, and that's why we got the New Testament. But they're saying, no, don't look at that. They say they're not against, by the way, the Jewish faith, people who believe in the way that most Christians do. They just believe it's a different faith. That Judaism is a different faith than Christianity. But those like Mike Johnson who think differently say, no, Israel's fate is tied to and determined by the Bible, the Christian Bible per se, even the New Testament, I guess. These are the people who are dispensationalists. Put another way, they are Christian Zionists. And that is what Mike Johnson adheres to. More so, according to his own words, perhaps, than his adherence to the United States of America?